Okay, good morning, everyone. So as we continue with this section of the halachas of Lashon Hara regarding the proper conduct, so the section that we're in right now deals primarily when there's some kind of a product or something that you have experienced, but you didn't have the best experience, or like the case we had beforehand, where you know of a cheaper price somewhere else, right? And by saying that, oh, that other place has a cheaper price, and you know this person's going to this store, right? Is that speaking Lashon Hara about the store that is more expensive, right? So over here, it's a little different example. Over here, right, the case is, right, let's read the case. The case is you purchase a skid cream made by your local, all right, holistic or organic, vegan, non-animal testing health product store, right? The whole caboodle, right? Everything together. You have it's the most healthiest, organic, blah, 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 right? It's made out of who knows what. It's the healthiest thing. And you try it, you put it on yourself, right? And you know there's properties of a secret recipe, you don't know what they are. Or you try it, and instead of smoothing your skin, it gives you a rash, right? It gives you a rash. May you tell your neighbor, your friend, whatever family member who's thinking of purchasing the same cream. Say, oh, you're thinking of buying that cream? I just wanted to let you know that, I got a rash out of that cream. Are you allowed to say something, yes or no? What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
You can say, I'm allergic to it.
You don't know if you're allergic to it, right? You just got a rash. It might not be. You didn't do any testing. Welcome, Jim. Let's just include you on the question. We're on day 58, page 178. So the question's like this. You bought this organic, non-animal, blah, blah, blah kind of cream, right? And you tried it and you got a rash. Now, you know your friend, your neighbor, your family member, whatever, is planning on buying a similar cream. Are you allowed to tell them that you got a rash? So Chayaleh said, no, you should say that I'm allergic to it, but we said, you don't know if you're allergic. You haven't got it tested. You just tried it once and you got a rash, right? So you don't know if you're allergic to it or not, right?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say anything. I think I would probably not say anything. The right thing to do is probably not say anything, but then check back with the neighbor. And if the neighbor says, oh, I got a rash, then you can say, yeah, I had one too. And
okay.
Then you're not speaking ill ahead of time. You're just saying that's not unusual. I got one too.
How is this different from medication?
Yeah.
Sorry, am I?
Bonnie, go ahead. Yeah, you're speaking. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just, I think you can tell the neighbor, I mean, not that it's a general thing, but you did have a reaction. I don't think it's any different from a medication where they put that long list of adverse reactions that possibly only one person ever had, but they have to cite it. And I think it's just being honest. I don't think
honesty, Bonnie, we mentioned this word. Just because it's honesty doesn't mean to say it's not Lashon Hara.
It's not what, if it's honest.
If it's true, doesn't mean to say that it's not Lashon Hara, right? If the person themselves wrote it on that, could be a side effect like this, and then that's the person's honesty to be upfront. Right, but someone else that experienced that cream, right? They might be saying the truth, what happened to them, but that still might be Lashon Hara. The question is, if it fall into Lashon Hara or not. Welcome, Emily. Just to catch you up, we're on day 58, page 178. The question is, you bought this organic, blah 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 kind of cream, all the good stuff, if you like. Right, and you tried it and you got a rash. Now you know your friend, your neighbor, or family member is planning on doing a similar cream. Are you allowed to tell them that you got a rash instead of your skin being smooth? You got a rash from it. Are you allowed to say something? So Jim said no. Afterwards, if they get a rash, you could just say, "Oh, I also got a rash." Right? Chayaleh was saying that you should say that you are allergic to it, but we said we don't know if you're allergic to it or not. You tried it once. You had a reaction. Doesn't mean to say you're allergic to it. Bonnie was saying that you should say the truth, but we said saying the truth is a good thing, but saying the truth could also be Lashon Hara. So any other thoughts?
I
think
I agree with Bonnie that I can't see anything wrong with saying, well, I bought the cream and I had a reaction to it, but that doesn't mean that you are, but I don't know. I mean, I would think saying something would be okay.
You have to understand the consequences. Remember, if you say something to your friend, I had a reaction to it, it is very likely that they're not going to buy the product. So you are saying something negative about the product that is most likely not going to affect them, right? Unless it's proven that there's something faulty with the product, right? But if it's not, then this product's been on the shelf, and by you saying that, that is very likely that they're not going to buy the product, and that's speaking negative about the product and about the person's product and harming their business, and that falls under rookie and lashon hara, like we spoke about in previous cases regarding saying something about overcharging or regarding the carpet, the store of the carpet, or things like that. Now we said it depends how you say it, right? But by harming someone's business through words that you say what happened to you, right? That still might be falling on the lashon hara. So you might feel better, but you might be doing the wrong thing.
Why not loan your cream to your neighbor so she can just do a little patch to try it out?
That's an ingenious idea, right? Instead of them purchasing, say, listen, I know you're thinking of buying this. Why don't you, instead of before you buy it, right? Why don't you try mine out and see if you like it, right? If you like it, then you can buy your own, right? That's a very good. You're not saying anything, right? And you're preventing your friend from purchasing something that they might not like, and you're offering for free. That's fine. That's an ingenious idea. But the question is let's say you threw yours out already, right? So if that's possible, you threw yours out already. You put it on and you got a rise, throw it out. That's it. No more cream. Now you're at the kiddush on Shabbos and your friend, I heard about this cream, blah, 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 right? And you can't say, well, let me try. I'll dig mine up in the garbage, right? Garbage hasn't come yet. It's only like 5 bags of garbage on top, right? I don't think that's really the best way to use the cream, right? So now what are you supposed to do? If you're able to do that, that's an ingenious idea. That's a great idea. But what happens when you can't, right? What are you allowed to say then? Emily, you've been very quiet.
Yes.
Not like you.
Uncharacteristic.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, because it could be that the rash was because the person who used the cream had like some other issue, or it could be that the cream was bad. So it's hard to know. I mean, I was reading the answer here that you should talk to the person who made it and tell them. I mean, that seems like the best advice. Tell them that you had a rash. But right. They're saying here that you can't say it's dangerous. Right. I don't know if the rash is a dangerous. That seems a little bit like, you could say like if you say it gave me a rash, that doesn't mean that it's dangerous. No, I definitely wouldn't buy it. If someone told me that cream gave them a rash, I'd be like, I'm not buying it.
Exactly. So what dangerous is all relative. Doesn't mean dangerous that you're going to have a heart attack, God forbid, or dangerous that you have cancer from it, right? That's not what it means, dangerous. But dangerous is relative to what the product is, right? Since Emily already read the answer, so we're going to take her cue, right? So let's read through the answer. Let's expand on it, okay? And let's see how the different things that we spoke about and see how we could fit it all in, or say something a little different. So as it says, first and foremost, right, you got to speak to the manufacturers, bring it to their attention. So like we spoke about beforehand, if you remember, we spoke about the shopkeeper that by mistake, overcharged you, right? Or other scenarios. First and foremost, you got to go speak to the person, right? That's the first level of a situation where someone did something to you or something happened, right? Before starting, and it could affect other people. First and foremost, you have to give the person the opportunity to answer themselves, to explain themselves, or to say, you must have had a bad batch. We've done tests, right? Or whatever it is, right? or you are one of those one in a million that actually gets a rash from this. There's nothing perfect in the world. And so first and foremost, you have to go ahead and speak to the manufacturer, to the person that had this. And now, right, regarding your friend, right, so as Emily said, they use the word dangerous. It's a little harsh, but you have to realize, and I think someone said this, right? We all react to things differently, right? On a list of medicine, right? There's a whole list of possible side reaction. Most of us don't, we don't even read them, right? Our doctor gives us the medicine, right? We know that it was tested. Yes, we all know that there is a possibility of some kind of adverse reaction that is unlikely, possible, but very unlikely, percentage-wise, unless you yourself specifically has some kind of allergic reaction to the medicine. Right? But besides that, it's unlikely, and most of us don't even read through it. Now, the reason why they write that is because, yes, there are some people that react to things differently. Each one of our bodies, God created our body, is scientifically a miracle, right? The doctors still don't know every workings of our body, right? They're learning more and more, but we don't know everything about the body, and every body is created slightly different, and therefore reacts to things differently, right? So when you are telling your friend, right, it's possible that you personally had a bad reaction. And just because you had a bad reaction doesn't mean to say that there's something wrong with the product. And by saying to your friend, as Emily said, and I think someone else said, and I know myself, if I hear from someone, oh, I had a rash from that cream, right? Or okay, I'll find another cream. There's a whole bunch of creams. I wanted to try this. It's cool. It's organic, blah, 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 and the whole thing. Right? But you know what? I'll try another cream. What's a big deal? I don't have to buy this cream. Right? But who gives you the right to go ahead and express, yes, it might be the truth of what happened to you, but it's not the truth regarding what the product does. Now, if it's something that's proven, and there's been an article, and there's already a whole case study, if people are getting rashes, so then that's something else. Then you're allowed to tell your friend, hey, listen, I know you're looking into that. I personally had a reaction. There's a whole case study of people that now have reactions, right? They're looking into this cream. I know it's still on the shelves, but I know a whole bunch of people that have had reactions. It's not like that one in a million. So I would say that I would tell you to double check into it. I'm not telling you not to buy it, but double check into it. That's already when it's already sort of proven. It's already there's people that have spoken out that they got it. They know, right? But to your friend directly, when it's not something that's proven, right? Come on, let's be honest. We all react differently to different things, right? Medicine or whatever it is. Some people get more tired. Some people the drowsy ones. Some of this or that, right? But when we get shot, we all react differently. Right? We take blood. People react differently. Some people are strong. Some people, our bodies are just made a little weaker, right? So by going ahead and saying the truth, even though it's a truth, right? You are speaking negative about the product when there's no proven thing that this product is bad. And when the product is bad and it's dangerous, and then that's something else. But otherwise, right, you're not allowed to go ahead, right, and tell your friend. And I know it's tempting a lot of times because A, you want to be part of the conversation, right? B, you feel like you need to give your friend all the information, right? But you don't have all the information. You have one thing that happened to you, right? This product has been on the shelves for a year. It's been on the shelves for 6 months. No one else seems to be having this issue. No one else has went to the doctor. Doctors are not concerned. There's nothing about it. So you had a reaction. So it was your personal thing, right? We spoke about this with babysitters, right? Remember, if you didn't mesh well with a babysitter, right? You're not going to go ahead and say, oh, I don't know, the babysitter, we had a hard time with it. Your personalities don't work so well. Doesn't mean to say someone else's personalities won't work. It's the same idea, right? Yes, if they did something, they left the house a mess, right? We spoke about this, and that's something else. But just because your personalities clashed, and you didn't get along, right? Doesn't mean to say that you have the right to go ahead and tell other people. And the same thing over here. Just because it's a one-time thing that happened to you, right? Or your body rejected it, doesn't mean to say that that's something that is something that you're allowed to go ahead and tell other people. Any questions on that? Go ahead, Emily.
So is there a difference between, like, this is saying it's a friend that makes it? Is there a difference between if it's a friend versus like a company versus a Jewish company, a non-Jewish company. This seems like somebody that, yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a difference there.
So over here, if you notice, it just says, right, you purchase a skin cream made by a local, holistic, organic, vegetarian, non-animal, and you can keep on saying all this. It's trying to say it's made by a company. It doesn't say your friend. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't say a Jew or a non-Jew, right? It's made by a company, right? So yes, if it's a non-Jewish company, are the halachas slightly different? We did speak about this. The halachas are slightly different, but one has to be still very careful that it doesn't, that could be turned into Chil Hashem, desecrating God's name, right? That you're speaking negative about a Jewish, a negative non-Jewish person, something like this, which is something that might be common in the world to say, right? But halakhically, it's not a problem. Halakhically, it is a problem. So then that could be a difference between a Jewish company and a non-Jewish company, or a Jewish person, non-Jewish person. Because if in the general population, it is not something that's considered negative, right? So then you're not doing anything negative in the secular world, right? So if you're not doing anything negative in the secular world, this is something that people talk about and people speak about, and they say their experience about what they do, and that's common practice, right? Even though halachically it does fall under, right, lashon hara or rechilas, or something that you're not allowed to do, right? So, but in the secular world, it's not considered that. And if someone heard you say it, they would say, "Oh, you're just," as someone said, "You're just saying the truth. You're just helping your friend." Right. So then, if it's a non-Jewish company, then you're allowed to say something because it won't turn into Chil Hashem or something like that. Right. But and it depends on what you're saying and how you're saying it. I would say if you had a bad experience with a babysitter, right, and it's just because your personalities clashed, and it's a non-Jewish babysitter, that might be a problem because it might get back to the person, and that it's very touchy of how things are said, and even in the secular world, you have to be careful. People know that people's personalities clash, and you shouldn't just rat out about someone. So then I would say to be more careful of how you talk, because again, it could turn into Chil Hashem when it comes around, desecrating God's name. But a situation like this where it's something that is more common to talk about, right? So then, and if it is, I'm not saying it is or not, right? If it is, right? So then that won't have the problem of desecrating God's name, right? But halakhically, it could be a problem. Chayle, you're asking a very good question. Chayle is asking, I see it's to everyone, right? How does this relate to writing Amazon review, right? That's a very good question, right? Amazon review, Google review, things like that, right? So it depends again on what's going on. I would not write this as an Amazon review. First of all, right, in general, right, if you're, it's going to come up as, Chayalea Rosenthal. So everybody knows it's a Jewish person, right? I don't remember hearing Chayalea Rosenthal as a non-Jewish name, right? But it's, everybody knows it's a non-Jewish person. And by saying your own personal one-time experience on a written thing, I don't think that's, I would stay away from doing that. And if you had car problems or your refrigerator keeps on breaking or whatever, and there's reviews about the things like that, so then that's something else. You're writing your review, right? Letting other people know that's what the reviews are there for. Companies know that, right? That's what's expected, right? So that's something else. A personal thing that might have happened to you, and there's no one else that writes it, right? I'm not poskening. I'm not poskening. It's an interesting question, right? But I would say if it's a Jewish company, for sure not. Right? If it's a non-Jewish company, again, it depends on what is considered the norm to do or not to do, something like that. Regarding what's accepted, right, and what's not accepted. And that's really in general regarding writing reviews in general. It's important because I know we all read reviews. But at the same time, right, we have to be careful if we have a very Jewish name that the review is being written. If you change the name to a non-Jewish name, and people won't know, right? So then that's something else because then you're not worried about the Chil Hashem component. Then you just have to know halakhically it's okay or not. The Chil Hashem, the desecrating God's name, right, is expands and touches parts of that go beyond the actual level of halacha, right? Because we have to be very careful. Yeah, so if you have a cute name or whatever, so then that's something else. Then you're not worried about that, and you have to know about the actual halacha, and then that's acceptance, and then that's fine. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so let's look at the quote. All right, let's look at page 179. All right, so the quote's like this, and this is really coming from Pirkei Avos, really. Right, speech is the most man's power. It is that which distinguishes man from all other creatures. Right. So in Pirkei Avos it says, right. I forgot the exact verse, the exact Mishnah, but something to the effect of, right. Adam man, right, has a koach hadibur. Right. We have the power of speech. Right, and that differentiates us from animals. What is the power of speech? Right, and what's this idea of the power of that's what man's thing says the Vilna Gaon, and I just want to expand on this quote a little bit. The Vilna Gaon says, right, that speech is more than just uttering sound, because animals make sound, right? They go woof woof, and they go meow, right, and other interesting, funny noises, right? Animals make noises, and a baby makes a noise, right? A baby also makes noise. A baby goes, wah, right? And then as they start developing, they start making more noise. They go, da, ma, right? More, right? They start developing different sounds. What's that developing process? That they start making sounds more than just crying. The process is that their intellect is forming, right? Their brain, and I'm no doctor, right? But their ability to comprehend, their ability to retain information, their ability to process things is developing, right? And as they get bigger and older, right, the process, if they're healthy, and God willing, all kids should be healthy, right? Their process, they start developing more words, and they start speaking more words, and the more they hear you talk to them, right, the more their words become clear. And that's why certain people have accents one way and some kids have accents other, because they hear the way you that's how their brain processes it. Why some kids speak Chinese and Japanese and some English or Hebrew, and because that's what their brain processed. Keep on hearing. That's why it's important to talk to your kid and not just shove them in front of a TV, right, or a tablet, because then they just no funny sounds that the cartoons make, right? But the talking process and hearing you talk and sitting on your lap, even if you're talking to friends or whatever it is, or talking to them, is what enables them. Their brain is developing and retains that and hears it, and slowly but surely it develops it, and then God becomes and then becomes that, and then becomes daddy, right? It becomes more, right? And it slowly but surely, right, starts putting together full words. The ability to speak, meaning to say, is the ability to comprehend, is the ability to make decisions, ability to retain information, right? So what it really means, says the Vilna Gaon, that the koach of speech, the ability to speak, is a spiritual entity, right, of us taking the information that we have and bringing it out into the world, right? Being able to express, right, who we are, our abilities, our knowledge, right, and our wants, our desires, whatever it is, and putting it out into the world. That's a spiritual power. And speech is, you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't anything. It's not even wind. I mean, if you speak really loud, so you might blow on someone, right, or spit on someone, right? But speech is a spiritual entity, right? And if I remember correctly, I think Onkelos, right, the commentary Onkelos, when in Bereshis, in Genesis, right, I'll look at, I have a comments right here, right? When it says that God created man, right, it says, and God blew into man nishmas chayim, right, a soul of life, right? And if I remember correctly, I'll look it up, I might be mistaken. Onkelos says over there, koach elyona, second. Oh, it's in the next part. 1 second. Yavitach Hashem nismas chayim, right? Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, and the commentary Onkelos says, man, he created man. Right? And man, God, he put into man nishmasa, right? As we know, that's called a neshama, ruach, as a neshama. And he gave a man ruach mamala, the ability of higher abilities, right? And the comment, what's this higher ability? Right? The higher ability to transcend, right? The ability to comprehend, the ability to retain, the ability to speak, right? And that is the ability of the power of man. It's ruach mamala. It's a higher energy, right? That is what the power of speech represents, right? And when we ruin that speech, we go ahead and we taint it with speaking negative about other people, right? What we're doing, we really, first of all, we're squandering the special gift that God gave us, right? By using it for something petty and negative and hurtful, right? And second of all, right, what we're doing is we're contaminating, really contaminating our ability to think properly in Torah thought and in good thought, and ability to speak properly. Says we only have one mouth. Right? We have 2 ears, we have 2 eyes, we have 2 nostrils, but we have one mouth. Because the koach hadibur you can't say, oh, I have one good one bad one. Well, it's one mouth, only one ability to transcend our animal instincts, right? That's really what it is, right? And that's why animals can make sound, right? They could go woof and they could go meow, and parrots even have the ability to mimic people, but it's just like a photocopy, right? It's not comprehending anything. I'm not saying they don't have instincts. Of course, animals have instincts, and animals can be trained, right? And the animals could, and I know dogs is man's best friend, and that's all good. And they're trained to be rescue dogs and to help the blind, and that's part of what Hashem put in them, right? They have the ability to be trained and create instinct, but they don't have the ability to comprehend and to develop and to make decisions and to speak, right? Because that's from the Ruach Mamal. That's from our special neshama that God gave us, right? And that, my friends, is something that we have to remember every time we're about to say something, right? Of course, it's halacha, right? But it's also something to the core of who we are, and that makes us different. Do we want to ruin that? Do we want to taint it with something negative, right? Let's double check that before we're ready to ruin that, right? Because that's really one of the things that makes us different than animals. Any questions or comments on that? No. Okay. Let's do one more halacha, and then we'll stop there. Okay. So let's turn to page 59, page 180. So the halacha is like this. The case study is like this. The local pizza shop has been under your community's kasher supervision since it opened 5 years ago. Right? It has recently switched to another organization's kosher supervision, and you've heard from a friend, right? Which you shouldn't have heard from a friend in the first place. You heard from a friend, right? In the know. That's always one of the big ones. He's in the know. He knows what's going on. She's in the know. They know what's going on. You know that the reason for the switch was that the owner is unwilling to abide by some of the community supervision standards. Should you tell others about this? Emily's shaking her head. I could see. Go ahead, Emily. Unmute yourself. Tell us what you think.
No.
No.
It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's under a hechsher. So why is that like? That just seems like straight up lashon hara.
Okay. Good.
In my ignorant mind.
Hey, it's not an ignorant mind. You've been in my class for a long time, so don't make
I think it just seems like a reason. If they lost their hechsher, so then that's one thing. But they're switching to a different hechsher, so it's still kosher. So
that. I hear you.
Doesn't matter. It's kosher. Like stop gossiping.
Okay, good. And you don't have.
You've got to ask your rabbi whether this meets our community standards.
Okay, good. Speak to your rabbi, right? That's always a good one. Anybody else?
Yeah, this one seems very straightforward. No, I mean, no.
You're on Emily's side.
Absolutely, yeah.
Straightforward. No. Okay, good. Anybody else? No one else? Okay, so let's see the halacha, right? Casting doubts on the kashrus of a product is bound to put the product out of business, right? Therefore, it is lashon hara. If there are doubts, a competent rabbi should be consulted. Generally, the Rav of the community decides kashrus issues for this congregation, right? For his or her their people's congregation, and this is something very important. This happens a lot of times, right? I actually know of a story that this happened, right? I don't want to give too much details because then I will be over lashon hara, right? But in a certain city, right? There was a certain store was under one supervision, and then it switched, and there was unfortunately people saying that store is not kosher anymore, right? And it's both hechsherim were legitimate hechsherim. It wasn't like a kosher supervision, that just sold the paper, which unfortunately there are. And I know of those in Eretz Yisrael and in America. And that's why we have to make sure that we know that the supervision is a good supervision. I personally am not traveling the country, and therefore I don't know. So I rely on CRC, and that's why we have a list of different kosher supervisions that I rely on, right? And that's who I rely on, the CRC, right, in Chicago, right, that they do their due diligence to make sure, right, that those supervisions are good. But in a local city, right, when there's more than one supervision and different people have different standards, right, and that's for sure, and it could be they're lenient on this and they're lenient on that, but it's within reason and it's still a legitimate hechsher. And a lot of times it is politics, even though there might be different leniencies within the hechsher, and even if it's not politics, right, but within confines of halacha, there's different levels of, with some want to be a little more strict, and that's good, but just because you're a little more strict and the other one's a little more lenient doesn't make it not kosher, right? We have to be very careful, right, not to label, right, kosher, not kosher, they're more lenient on things, right? You're not only speaking about this store or this product, you have to realize you're also speaking about that whole supervision. Right? You're talking about the rabbis in that. You're talking about every person that's involved in that organization, right? Because you're not saying, this person got rid of his hechsher because he was didn't care about the too hard, and he's just doing it himself. That's something else, right? And that people should know. The person lost his hechsher, or the person decided to get rid of his supervision and did get a new one, right? Or he got some made up one that someone printed out of their printer, right? So then that's something else. That you have to let people know, right? Because you're going to be over lifnei iver. They're not going to know, and they're just going to go to the store because that's been when you don't really look, as you've kept on going to that store, right? Typically, the rabbi of the community will make a decision, send out an email, or the kosher supervision, let's say like an OU or COR or Gesher K in Jacksonville, right, would send out saying, listen, this place is not under our supervision anymore. We've done that actually here, right? When what's it called again? If you remember the ice cream, the sherbet place, the yogurt place, what was it called again?
Yogurt Mountain?
Not Yogurt Mountain.
Yeah, wasn't it like Frozen Yo's or something
Something
like?
like that, whatever it is. Now, when it lost its supervision, right, we sent out a thing saying this is not under our supervision anymore. And that's something very different. Then people are allowed to say, hey, just FYI, because that's a toelis, because that's something different. Over here, by switching supervision, and they're both legitimate, just because you feel that one, or you heard, right, you're not only talking about the store, you're saying that supervision will allow this person to be lenient on things that are not okay. So you're not only talking about that person. You have to realize what you're saying is affecting many other people. And even if it was just that store, also that's still not allowed, right? So yes, you're all on the right track on that one. That was pretty straightforward, right? But it's something that is very common, right? And it's not only regarding a pizza shop. It's someone that makes food out of their house that has a supervision, or if it's a certain school that they decided to do something, or there's a lot of different scenarios where if they are still under the hashgacha of a rabbi, and hashgacha doesn't mean to say kosher food-wise, but other things of why they do certain things or how they do certain things, you have to be very careful. Just because they switch from someone to someone else and they're both legitimate, and one might be a little more lenient, but they're both legitimate, you have to be very careful. Let your rabbi decide. Your rabbi wants to say, hey, listen, this shul, we follow, certification A, but we don't follow certification B, right? For whatever reason, we feel that they're a little too lenient, right? And I don't feel comfortable, legitimizing that, right? I'm not saying that it's non-kosher, but it's not something that I would recommend to eat. That's the rabbi's decision to tell his congregation of what the standards that if you want to affiliate yourself with this rabbi, with this community, that we're keeping to, right? Because that's his job. His job is, he's not saying that they're bad. He's not saying that he's just saying, this is the standards that we're keeping to. That is not up to that standard. Therefore, I need to let my congregation know. But it's not for you to go ahead and tell someone else. They have to, it's the rabbi's decision to do that, right? And that's, again, it's unfortunately very common that this happens. And a lot of times, the source of it, a lot of times, is politics, unfortunately. Okay, we'll stop here. I'm going to stop the recording.